So college never really worked for me. And honestly, I was someone who was always good in school, right? Like in the early grades, I was always a straight A student. I was a bit of a nerd, right? I still am. And I was really good at math and science and pretty much any subject I was willing to put time and effort into. I was good at. I was just naturally gifted at school, and I was always just, I was in the fact club, the math club, all that stuff, spelling bees. I was always winning the spelling bees, and when I was actually trying, but even back then, right, I could see cracks in my own personality, right, because everything came so easy to me that I never really gave any effort to school, right? Like for the spelling bees and stuff, I would never practice the words. I would just go into it raw and just usually just see how far I could get, right? And I never studied. I hated homework, right? I hated the idea of having to go to school for 8 hours and then having to come home and fucking do homework. And I hated homework. And I just never really built the work ethic in school, right? And then fast forward to high school. By then, I'm so done with all the busy work and all the pointless bullshit work that I just completely check out, right? So high school, I'm just coasting fully. Like I'm sleeping in every class. I'm not giving a damn about the grades, and it caught up to me, right? So I ended up failing high school, and by the time I got out of high school, I just drop out basically. And so I give it like a year or two, and then I had to go get my GED. So I end up getting that, and then there you go, boom. And then get my GED, and I start working, entry-level jobs. I'm working around different manufacturing jobs and warehouse jobs, and to the job I'm at now, where, I'm still working in a warehouse, but, as a kid, I always wanted to be a doctor, right? And I was pursuing that the whole time I was a kid, and that's what motivated me, right? When I was actually, giving a shit and actually trying to get my grades right, I was wanting to be a doctor. So I'm doing all the classes you're supposed to do, anatomy and biology, by the time I get to college. And then for some reason I ended up choosing like computer science as my major, knowing full well I wanted to be a doctor, but I don't know, something about like the debt you had to get into just to even get into med school and all that, and it scared me, right? And I don't know, I guess I talked myself out of it because I was like, computer science would be the easier route, pay more, and I'm into computers too, don't get me wrong, but it only took about a year before I realized I just didn't really care too much to learn any of that, and kind of glad I didn't now, because I feel like AI is going to replace a lot of that work, and computer science degree is going to end up being a worthless degree in like 15, 20 years, I feel like, because computers are going to do everything for themselves, and it ain't going to be much you can do with it. So, dodged a bullet there. And then I ended up being able to go to med school in a way, and then that fell through because of COVID, right? And I was lucky to even have that opportunity, and then I completely squandered it. Like I just gave up on it completely, and I still regret it sometimes. But sometimes, and then I get to thinking about that debt load again I was talking about, right? Where if I were to stay on this path of being a doctor, I would end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and then I stop and think like, well, do I really want to get that six-figure salary if it means I gotta spend 10, 15 years of my life paying it back, and basically ended up with the same income I would have had just working and getting regular promotions, and and those jobs I've had, they've built my character, right? Like I've got better work ethic now, and I've got more discipline, and I learned to appreciate how far a dollar goes now, because I'm used to never really having much of them. So I grew up, lower middle class. We grew up, not like struggling, but there's been times where we had to kind of pull our resources together. And so I've learned to appreciate the value of money in a way that school never would have taught me, right? And that's kind of getting to where the bigger issue I feel like with college is, that you don't really learn a lot of things that are useful in the real world. unless you're like really honed in on something that you're supposed to be doing, like I should have been, you really don't have no reason to go to college. It's, you can just start working and you'll be just fine for the most part. I would say that for most people it's probably better because you really, if you're going to like do like underwater basket weaving or some like African American studies or just some useless bullshit degree, like no offense to any of that, but it's all bullshit, right? You're not going to make any real money while spending thousands to get this piece of paper that says you're qualified to do nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And good luck with, ever trying to get a job with any of these degrees like that, because it's hard enough with the right qualifications and, having tons of experience now, because they want you to have a doctorate in science to work at fucking McDonald's now. So, and good luck. And they don't teach you any real skills for the real world, right? They don't teach you how to write a resume or, fill out an application. They don't teach you how to, do your taxes. They don't teach you how to invest and save money. They don't teach you anything about compound interest, or they teach you like basic economics, but ideas that are like above the scope of everyday life, right? They'll teach you like supply and demand and, stuff like that. But unless you actually know how to apply that stuff, really, it's not going to benefit you in any way. They don't teach you like the bare bones basics that everyone needs to know, everyone has to know to really live here in this modern era, because things are only getting more expensive, and college especially, right? Tuition on colleges has gone through the roof, and just like rent and everything else, like that's never mind having to buy your textbooks and all that, and those have only gotten more expensive too. So, and each professor, they upgrade the books every year or two, and you can't use the out-of-date one, right? So they want you to go get the brand new book every year, and it costs hundreds of dollars a piece. By the time it all adds up, right, you spent tens of thousands, and sometimes you're not even sure if you're even pursuing a degree you want, right? I know so many people, including myself, that when you were in college, you had no idea what the hell you wanted to do. And I mean, like I said, I had some idea. Like I knew what I wanted to do, but the system is so fucked up that I was scared away from my own dream because of the cost of everything. And see, I knew even as a young age that student loan debt like that will burden me for the rest of my life. And notice how none of the rich people send their kids to public schools. You notice that? They always go to private school. They go to the big Ivy League institutions like Harvard and Yale, Columbia, Berkeley. They go to the big schools, and if they're not going to those schools, they're going to like super duper homeschool private school type deal, where they're nowhere near public education whatsoever. And I think that's quite telling that none of the rich people want their kids in public school. They don't want them in the public education system whatsoever. And why do you think that might be? It's because they know that nothing you learn in that place is going to benefit you in any way whatsoever. And it's going to mess up your mindset. It's going to mess up your goals. It's going to mess up your perspective on life. And you have less resources, right? Because schools have less money. They're already, fighting for every dollar they can get from the government as it is. And never mind teachers, right? I feel so bad for teachers. That is like one of the most underpaid and least respected professions in all of America. They work so hard, get disrespected by these brain-rotted kids all day, every day. I mean, there's countless TikToks of just how bad it is to be a teacher right now. And like I said, they don't get paid nothing for it. And that's why it has one of the highest turnover rates right now, and one of the highest burnout rates. And it's just a vicious cycle of teachers just coming in and not being able to handle the kids, and then they just turn around and leave. They're chasing their dream, and then their dream makes them miserable to where the point they don't want to work the job they always wanted to be. So that's just a sad way to go, right? People are realizing that their dream job is not their dream job, and that's just a testament to how broken and fucked up this system is that you're either so misguided throughout your entire life that you realize you were never chasing your dream, or you finally achieve your dream and then it's never really what you thought it was. And there's always the party culture in college too, right? So some people go there just to hang out and bullshit and get drunk and party and get to meet girls and stuff, right? I get it, right? It's fun, and if that's all you want to get out of college, then I would say skip it, because you can kind of do that in the real world anyway. You don't need a college degree to pick up women, right? If anything, it's usually the opposite. So it's usually just just putting yourself out there and just living your life, and you'll find women. That's not an issue, and you can get drunk anywhere, damn near. So yeah, skip college if that's your only goal, and then if you have no aspirations to use a degree for any your occupation, I would just say just skip college entirely and just go get to work, right? Because the way it works right now, it just doesn't work for most people, and it's just not worth pursuing. And don't be like me and waste years of your life thinking you can go back to college and make it work, and knowing full well it never worked for you. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know your stories about college down below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day.